There we go. Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for coming back. This is Return Roll Call. We have an unbelievable panel here set up. I'm just going to introduce everybody quick, even though you know who they are. We have Raul, who is Catch LISK. You didn't know who Raul was, right? He also has his YouTube page. Make sure you go over that. We have Josh Zeman, producer, director of The Killing Season. You've seen Josh here a number of times. Welcome, Josh. And of course, everyone's favorite retired detective, Mike Alcazar. Mike. Raul, Mike, and Josh, thanks for coming on. Listen, some big news today, right? I mean, wow. Raul, tell me what your first impression was when you heard it.
2 instant impressions. Holy shit! 0 to 1,000, and that was it.
Right, it was craziness. What about you, Josh? What did you hear? What did you feel?
Just for me, it's trying to make sense of it. Did they really truly find something? When I heard the ME's office was there, that I think changed everything for me, basically, which means, they found some. Does it mean, here's the question, right? Does it mean that they really found something? That's my question.
Yeah, usually there's only one reason to bring the ME out, and that's usually because it's something of I was waiting to see if the anthropologist coming up or something like that. And it's Mike, what was your first take on it?
Well, I found out because News 12 called me.
That's right, you were on the TV.
And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And then I Google search, there's nothing. There's nothing on the internet. And then my second thing was, I got to fucking put gel on my hair.
Well, yeah, I don't have that problem, but...
Yeah, I figured they recovered something. I thought they recovered something at Manorville, and now they're running with it. So that's what my initial impression was.
Yeah, and I think, we're going to get into that, but I think a lot of us are thinking the same thing. I just wanted to thank Hope, who gifted a membership again. Thank you very much, Hope. I really appreciate that. I have the Nightbot running with everybody's information on it. So for the mods, if you keep an eye on the room to make sure that, nobody's saying anything that's nasty or anything like that, because we don't tolerate certain things. So that's just that. But everybody's information is going up there on the Nightbot. So guys, we got to talk about this, right? Josh, I'm going to start with you.
Yep.
What do you think kind of precipitated this search this morning?
I mean, that's my question, right? The initial search was 10 months ago, So The question becomes, did it take 10 months for some piece of information to come to fruition? Some kind of, did that spark it? Or obviously, I think what we're all saying, Manorville, right? But, what was found in Manorville that would lead to this? And, and then the next question is, they're not digging up the backyard, right? So right. What are they digging up? Did they truly find something, or is Ray Tierney just covering every base possible?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about that too before we end the show today, is that, everything was going smooth. And then, Michael Brown coming out with I want everything from the James Burke files and everything else. And it seemed as if everything kind of went off the rails after that. Raul, what's your take on how you think this thing kicked off?
I think it's something that they continued to develop. I don't know if Manorville was intentional or just on some tip that they were going out after. You also got to key into something that was said a couple of weeks ago about over 400 electronic devices. So between the electronic devices and the storage units that we got no feedback from, they must have been able to develop evidence from there. I can't see them not using the very broad scope of the initial search warrant, where they had the excavator out there, and there are tarps in the back right now. So there's something going on back in the backyard, but I can't see them not using the full scope of the original search warrant and the time that they were out there for to get everything that they could possibly have needed: pipes, mattresses, the tub. They broke down walls already. So unless they've developed something specific that might have been on an electronic device that led them to a particular part of the home that hadn't been explored, that might be why they're there.
Yeah.
Well, the question is under the vault, right? I mean, that vault is huge. Like, we're talking a walk-in vault, that holds all these guns. Did they search under the vault? And I think the other question is, like, when they did that initial search, did they have all the relevant information to go and search? Like, Were they so surprised by the guns that they didn't go under the vault? You know, that's my question.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the jackhammers. Mike, what about you?
I agree both with Josh and Rahul. Yeah, I was thinking about the vault too. Did they do their due diligence when they recovered whatever they recovered, or was the vault too heavy? Maybe there's something underneath there. Maybe something they recently found, or maybe a tip that said, you know what, we got to go back. So I think they missed something. They feel like they missed something, so now they're going back to do it from the beginning. I think they're going to search again and do it right. You know, obviously they feel like they missed something. Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. I can't wait to see what they recover. I can't wait for this press conference.
Yeah, this is going to be good. Jay just said, what an awesome panel. Great job, Joe. Thank you, Jay. And yeah, we just got another super here too from Jinxie. Says, what was the Emmy called out during the first round at the house? Not at the house, but at the storage facility. So that is a game changer per se on this. And True Crime with Stephanie. The True Crime with Stephanie became a YouTube member. Thank you very much, Stephanie. We really appreciate that. So,
but I have a question. Because, Joe, you were saying before when we were speaking offline, they have to have probable cause to go back, right? So there has to be some new piece of information, probable cause to go back. It can't just be that Tierney is trying to say that we did everything possible. Right? There has to be something new.
Absolutely, right. And I had mentioned this. Yeah, I had mentioned this. And I can tell you something from experience, too. Judges don't like you coming back for a warrant after you already got a warrant. I don't care if it's 10 days later or 10 months later, because they want you to get this all done in one shot.
Right. Even in Suffolk County.
Yeah, I'm sure even Suffolk County is going to be the same way.
Thank you, Ro.
So, yeah, no, I mean, Ashley just donated 10 memberships. Ashley, thank you very much. That was very generous of you. But yes, something new. So I'm going to throw out a couple of things. I had warned you guys ahead of time. There was a couple of things that I'm going to throw out. First one, and we'll throw this out. Did Asa find something in the house to give to Tierney? Did that do something? Maybe she discovered something finally that said, "Oh my God, look at this." Maybe maybe that could something to do with it. What do you guys think about that?
Why leave her daughter?
I got to jump on it. Go ahead.
Raul, good.
I mean, everything is possible, especially when we're speculating.
Pure speculation.
Why leave the daughter there then? Why didn't they all just leave and leave the keys with the DA or the police and just let them do what they need to do? I don't know. That it's possible, but I'd like to see some indication from her that there's more empathy.
Yeah, well, the daughter's supposed to be in New York, Manhattan somewhere. They went down to the Carolinas, the wife and the kids. So nobody is in the house. And the cops just descended on this place at 7 a.m., kind of like they knew nobody was going to be there.
Well, News 12 was saying that Victoria was at the house.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They said Victoria was at the house when they got there at 7 a.m. And I kind of believe that because she must have called Macedonio, because when he got contacted by News 12 or Newsday, he knew about the warrant. He hadn't seen it yet. So to me, that's all within a minute or two of happening, and just shows that they just knocked on the door and said, "Hey, look what we got."
Yep. And well, that's the way to do it anyway, because you run the risk of something happening. Even I don't care if it's whoever's in that house, you're always worried about that. Steel Guitar's been a member for 2 months. Thank you, Steel Guitar. Yeah, no, I mean, if you're just joining us now, we got an all-star panel here. Raul Montero, Josh Seaman, and Mike Alcazar. We're close it up to 500 people watching this live, which is coming to be a new record for this show.
The other thing I noticed is that they were bringing far more stuff out than they were putting in. Like you saw bolt cutters coming out. Like you saw that they're going in for the long haul. I wonder, so they're going to be sifting. They're going to be doing everything. Like, are they going down to the base, to basically, again, underneath the vault? Is that what we're looking at? Something like that.
Yeah, Josh, that's a great point, because they also set up cameras in the driveway. So they're recording everybody coming in and out and what they're coming in and out with. Like, this to me is like dotting I's and crossing T's at a very, very effective level.
Yeah, no leaf blowers or red Solo cups here, guys.
Geez. Yeah,
sorry, I had to throw that one in there.
So I had heard something from a source. Don't know how credible it is, but basically they found relevant information that was not relevant at the time of the initial investigation. So what is that like? That's a very vague statement, obviously, right? But are we talking about a different murder that they may be looking at him for, that then leads them to say, oh, we didn't look for something relevant to this crime? Now, that wouldn't be R10. That would be somebody else, right? And we all know that when Rex was first arrested, we all went back to the victim who was found on Meadowbrook Parkway. Not, so are we dealing with them looking for another murder that's not necessarily linked to the Gilgo Beach?
I mean, it could be. You're referencing Carmen Vargas from '89, and I would love for them to be able to develop something, for her nieces. I feel so much for them, and I would love for Carmen to have some justice too. I mean, there's also someone that I am very much wrapped up with too, and that's Judith Ramona Velaz. I'd love for them to develop something there. Like, we know that they're going after all the other Ocean Parkway victims,
right?
So I love that thought that it could be something relevant now that might not have been relevant at that time, because when they first searched that house 10 months ago, there wasn't the additional task force members focusing on the New York City disappearances. So
that's why I'm kind of maybe that gives probable cause to go in if we're talking about Vargas, basically, because I think we're talking about Vargas. I mean, if any of the other crimes that was so just right on the money, it would have been that one.
Yeah, Mike,
I think that's why it's good to always bring in different agencies too, right? You have a different set of eyes. Maybe other investigators didn't see what they saw, and now they brought something else new, maybe recovered new evidence. So good job. I think it's a good job. And like I said, I give the credit to the district attorney for reopening this. He's not shy about it. He's owning it. He's probably going to say maybe they missed some things. So good job on him.
Yeah, no, listen, we know that there's got to be some new information developed, right? Because that's just the way the search warrant things work. Just what that evidence is going to be, the whole gamut. I was on News Nation before I started with you guys, and I had said I wouldn't be a bit surprised if this is outside the Gilgo case.
Right.
And I said that specifically because I'm starting to believe that this has expanded greatly in regards to this, especially when you were even talking about, Bitroff, when he was going out in there, and Sandra Castillo, and then, Raul. Remember, not too long ago, we were talking about Andre Isaacs and how his name appears on the Gilgo Beach website, right? So we can't forget about that little red herring either, right? So there's
I don't think we can forget about anything. Like, we really can't. Even Tanya Rush, like inside the suitcase, there's the potential for DNA or some sort of evidence or hair. Even in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, law enforcement knew enough to search for hairs, and it's going to be those single strands of hair that are going to keep him behind bars for eternity.
Can I ask a question about clarity? What was found in the Manorville search? Lockbox, glass box? Was something actually found in the Manorville search in those woods?
No, I think everybody's misconstruing what was put out there, and what the article had said, and it was mostly the article that said it, that the law enforcement who went there that next day, one of those 4 or 5 days, retrieved something from a lockbox. So it's just a box that's probably there where supplies are in. I wanted to just not sensationalize it and just say a lockbox is a lockbox. It's a key or something, and that could be it. Glass box, I can't imagine glass being buried for X amount of years, in the ground. But you never know. Like, any of this is possible. Burying trophies like that, who knows? Like, I didn't know what we were going to expect to find, a treasure trove of left shoes. Like, you know, you just don't know. And you know, we can speculate all we want, but one thing we know we're not going to get out of this Suffolk County DA is any kind of information other than snark. And I'm here for it.
Yeah. No. So look, he's done his job. You can't complain about that, right? He's done his job and then some. When we thought, and I thought too, that he basically said, all right, I'm doing these 4 and that's it. And all of a sudden now we got that 180. So I'm glad to see it and I'm all for it.
Well, this goes back to the biggest issue looming over this case, which is Michael Brown trying to insert reasonable doubt in basically Rex's case, right? Until the DA can basically put a perp to these other murders, there will always be reasonable doubt. And so are we seeing that? Was Manorville and is everything basically trying to basically put victims to said serial killer, whether that's Rex, whether that's Bitroff, whether that's somebody else?
Right.
That's my question.
Just hold on to that question one more second. Lisa, who is at the scene actually right now,
with Laura,
trying to find a quiet spot. And there's Laura Ingle too. So we got a double surprise for you guys today.
Hey.
Hey, Laura. You're live, Laura. Hi. So there you go.
What you said? That's okay. I have a live report to do on News Nation here in a few minutes, but I was going to join you for a few.
Yeah, sure. Go on. Yep, you can join in too. I gave you the link. You can jump in.
Okay. I'm going to go over. I got to be in front of my camera. Okay, go.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, Lisa, what's going on at the scene there?
Well, most of media went to lunch right now.
Okay.
And it's pretty stale. And by stale, I mean that there's not much coming in and out of the house right now. So it appears that most of the detectives are in the house. Nassau and Suffolk County, both medical examiners' offices are here. And a lot of people are wondering, like, why would both here? And it comes down to jurisdiction. Rex lives in Nassau County. Suffolk County has the investigation. So it just comes down to a chain of custody and jurisdiction.
Right. Any talk about an anthropologist showing up? I know a lot of people in those shirts. Did you hear anything about that? Because that would be an interesting take.
I haven't heard anything, and I haven't seen anyone park on some of the side streets here because it is blocked off. There's one entrance to the block, which is blocked by one state trooper SUV. And then the other side of the block, which is further away from his house, it's actually taped off with a trooper on the outside of the barrier. But we haven't seen any cars come up and down the block. So once that happens, we'll be able to report that.
Oh, and I think we got Laura coming in here. Let's see. Here we go, Laura.
Hi, guys.
Welcome, Laura Ingle from News Nation. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm right in front of Lisa, where I've got my eyes on. I'm trying to figure out how to turn my camera around so I can show you the front of the house, and I can certainly show you the news media. I'll give you a tour right now of what's going on. Because we're right in front of the house, and I'll show you what Lisa has described, that the state troopers have us blocked off pretty good. Look at this guy. This guy's gonna have the best shot, right?
Was he hunting lions, that guy with that thing?
Who do you work for?
I'm an independent. I work for
He's independent. Okay.
Independent.
Well, he's gonna have some great pictures somewhere. But we'll walk you over here. So can I zoom in? No. Oh. Well, here's the front of the house, and then they've got the dual command centers going on. So we've got the New York State Police here, and then the white van is the Suffolk County command center that they've set up. And there's been, as Lisa has described, a lot of activity. We've seen a lot of boxes and big bags coming out. I saw a guy pull up a hand truck out of a van and walk it into the house. So that happened. What if anything he's going to need that for? We'll see. We've got our cameras trained over there to see what's coming out.
Yeah, the thing that we're looking for is maybe an anthropologist or jackhammers, right? Is there anything about them breaking up that vault inside his house?
You know, we were talking about what they got last July. I have not seen any heavy equipment like that being moved in. And you've probably seen the shot of the tents in front of the house. So they've got everything pretty well protected, but we can certainly see what is coming in inside of the house and down the street. We're all parked and camped out here. Haven't seen any heavy equipment though, but that is a really, really good point. That could be something that we could be seeing here. And it looks like these guys aren't going away anytime
Yeah,
soon.
no, this is going to be a couple of days. I think they're going to be there. Are you seeing brown paper bags coming out, like maybe things with biological evidence in it?
Brown paper bags. I saw one that was, as tall as me. There's a lot of bags. Some are small, but really large ones. Then we've seen boxes come out. I've seen one of the workers here in front of with the trucks pulling out boxes. Like he looks like he's a mover. He's been pulling out flat boxes and then building them with tape and then putting them under the tent, seemingly for whatever's coming out. And then they have a clipboard, and it looks like they're doing a moving inventory as things are coming in and out.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. But any other observations you see? Any other officials that look like they're kind of new to this? Because you've been there since the beginning of this, since last July. So have you seen anybody that you haven't seen before?
There's a lot of people that have shown up, a lot of men that have shown up in suits. I don't necessarily know all of them, but I do recognize a lot of them from being in the court. Whenever I'm at the courthouse and whenever we have a really big development, we'll see more and more detectives and task force members show up at Rex Heuermann's court date. So we've seen a lot of those type of people showing up, in addition to Lisa, I think, has mentioned somebody from the medical examiner from Suffolk County and now Nassau County here as well. Obviously, the neighbors that we've been talking to, the people up and down the street are going, what is going on? We thought this was all over with.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not happy telling people to get off their lawn.
Right.
That whole thing, but it's pretty amazing how this thing kind of developed. What was your first instinct when you heard this was breaking again?
Well, for me, I thought it was, this has to be something to do with the Vanderbilt search, right? That's the only thing that seemed to make sense. But the last court appearance I went to of Rex Heuremann and the last hearing we went to was all about it wasn't all about, but they mentioned the over 400 devices that have been recovered. So it could have something to do with that. That's a lot of data. And Ray Tierney, the Suffolk County District Attorney, had talked about how long it is going to take them to go through all of that, what they were looking for. And all of us were like, 422 cell phones? And he said, no, electronic devices. So iPads, iPods, just everything you can imagine, 400 of them they're going through. And it could be some evidence from that. It could be from the Manorville search. That was kind of where our minds first went when we heard. I said, it's got to have something to do with that because they were here for so long. And we know that they busted up the bathtubs and under the sinks and the mattresses. Yeah. They tore everything apart. There was one point where we heard that Asa Ellerup was sleeping on the floor because there was nowhere for her to sleep because the house was so, banged up. And so now knowing that they're here for this length of time, I'm looking to see if anybody else is coming out. I wish I could zoom in. I'll figure that out after my live report. There goes Lisa.
Okay.
There goes Lisa Ribicott. Yeah, she's on the case.
Lisa's on the job.
She is. Yeah, we've been walking around these state trooper vehicles trying to get around. They do a pretty good job of blocking our shots. Whenever we get a shot up, they move these cars around right here to block our view. And then when we're looking on the porch, we see them turn their back to us and looks like they're trying to stop our.
There's a lot more blue bins.
There's more blue bins.
There's a lot more blue bins.
You guys have questions for Laura?
But
yeah.
You guys, the panel, does you have any questions for Laura that I might not have thought of?
No, the inventory of things coming in and out is so critical. I wrote down the blue bins, the large bags, the large, big bags that as tall as Laura. That's really, really interesting and revealing. And I'm trying to just figure out what could that have been 10 months ago inside the house. So.
Yeah.
Right.
And the word on the street is that this is, I know you had mentioned this before, but is the word on the street basically that this has been developed over the last couple of months since all that evidence and information, with the digital evidence and stuff like that? Is that what people are running with now?
I believe so. We knew that they were never going to stop investigating, no matter, not only for the four, for Maureen, Megan, Amber, and Melissa, but they were going to still continue to investigate Val and Jess. Peaches, we know it's been ongoing, and they're just not going to stop. And as they sift through, for me, it's also a lot of that storage unit product.
Yeah.
And figure out what the hell came out of that and what was developed from that, because I think that is so fundamental.
Yes.
Hey, Joe, I got to jump, but I'll jump back on. I have to do a live shot.
I know what you.
Thank you, Laura,
Okay.
for coming.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Well, that was a treat.
Yeah,
That was a treat.
one question that I have is goes back to, again, as long as there's an unsolved murder of an individual on Ocean Parkway, Michael Brown can use that to introduce reasonable doubt. So if I'm Ray Tierney, my biggest fear and all my efforts are going to be towards solving those other, and I use the word solving those other crimes as soon as possible, finding any additional evidence to solve those other crimes. So are we seeing anything that's related to Asian male? Are we seeing anything that's related to the other victims who, we don't know what happened to them on Long Island? That's on Ocean Parkway. That's where I'm going with what's happening, because that's what can ruin this whole thing for Tierney.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brown's got to do what he's got to do, and his. How do you defend somebody like this, especially with the DNA evidence that was presented in the bail doc? So for me, it's he's got to throw out everything and hope something sticks. And I don't know, honestly, if he can instill even a modicum of doubt in anyone's mind that the scientific evidence is going to be so strong. I think Tierney's biggest challenge is Tierney himself saying that the DNA is new technology. New technology makes me nervous because it needs to be proven historic, justifiable with a precedent. That makes me nervous. Other than that, unless they can really come over the top with validated science to offset any type of challenge to new science, then we got a new precedent on our hands.
But let me ask you a question. Even if the jury in their minds concludes that Rex was a killer, right, and killed these tragic victims, the question still remains: did Rex have an accomplice? Who killed these other individuals? And if that is the seed of reasonable doubt that comes in here, that until you solve these other murders, the question is, then the jury's heads explodes. It's like, well, we don't know who did these others.
Right.
Well, we don't know who. How do you know that this guy did? I'm just saying.
No, that makes sense in logic, of course. I think if we're looking at what we're looking at right now is a future trial of Rex being held accountable to 4 murders, and they can prove that Rex was present at those 4 murders based on his DNA or Ace's DNA or whatever, then we're not worrying about if there were more, because they have the evidence for Rex, and Rex was the only person charged right now. If there is any evidence of any other unknown person, then there's the doubt. Absolutely. But is it unequivocal that Rex did not act alone? Right now, the evidence shows, from what we see as the public, that there's enough evidence to tie Rex right now. Anything develops that includes anybody else, Burke, an entire Ocean Parkway cabal, whatever, that'll be for that time and that place, or those victims. If someone else is proven to have killed Peaches, let's say, then, there's got to be DNA on that. She was 3 days in that tub. So whatever evidence is going to be developed right now, Rex is on the line for the 4, and that's it. If they add more, then they got to have enough justifiable evidence to support charges against Rex for someone else or others.
Can Michael Brown introduce the other crimes?
That'll be for them to negotiate during the hearings.
That's my question.
That'll be up to the judge to decide. I'm sure they're all, at some point, Tierney's going to have to recognize that, Suffolk County was batshit full of corruption. Burke and Spoda ruined the reputation of the county, which didn't have a good reputation to begin with.
Sure.
and only made it worse. And honestly, Cini never did that much great either. So it wasn't until, Rodney Harrison taking over and partnering with Ray Tierney and building this incredible task force and solving some of these murders, hopefully, and finally, that the county in and of itself is going to have some sort of respectability, but they're going to have to take it on the chin, and they deserve it. So Tierney's just going to have to deal with that at some point. And it's two things can be true at the same time. The county could be corrupt and Rex could be acting alone, just the same way the county could be corrupt and Rex is part of this conglomerate of
Sure. Yeah. For me, the issue is the other victims. Rex could be, the two things being separate but equal. Rex could be responsible for these four, but is somebody else also responsible for these four, and also responsible for the other people. I mean, I personally hope it's all Rex, but I just, the question seems so looming, and that if I was Michael Brown, I would just hammer that over and over again in terms of all it takes is one.
If he can introduce it on the four that he's charged with and most likely go into trial. So I don't know. Let's say they bring new charges against Rex for Peaches, let's say. Will that happen under the same umbrella trial of the four, or will that be a separate trial? Will that trial run concurrently or at the same time? I don't know how that works. That's for like a lawyer or somebody way smarter than me, but I don't know how that would work with subsequent charges.
I think they separate them right now.
Yeah.
I think they keep the four as one case, and anything else that comes after, we'll just do it afterwards.
And we know that'll be kept separate from the four trials. So a jury may not hear anything else if there is anything else.
Well, my fear is that they don't have an answer for the other, that they don't have an answer, and then they just hang out there as these unsolved crimes that are somehow, proximity based, and therefore Michael Brown then uses the fact that they don't have somebody responsible for those crimes to introduce reasonable doubt. In Rex's case, yes, he was responsible for those four, but was somebody else. It gets back to the whole cabal thing. It gets back to the whole Burke thing. That's the reasonable doubt that I fear.
Yep. Mike, what do you think this is head?
I'm just looking at the chat, and I think everyone's head spinning with all our different theories. Somebody asked, do you think there's any chance that Asa could be targeted here? I mean, Laura said they were bringing bags of stuff as big as her. What did they recover before that's as big as Laura Ingle? It's amazing what evidence they're pulling out of there.
The house is not that big to begin with, so
I'm afraid that whatever they're taking out of the house is going to cause the house to collapse completely because it's.
Well, yeah, it's just termites holding hands, but it's the issue that comes down to is. I said it on News Nation. I mean, I think maybe after they're done this time around, that house might be unlivable. I mean, it just might. If they bring in jackhammers and break up the foundation, the house is going to get slapped with one of those red signs on it, and they're going to put a padlock on it, and that's it.
I think a lot of people think that Asa might be part of this. What do you guys think? I mean I've said that before. Yeah. Like she might be a co-conspirator, and now maybe they found evidence against her. I mean, that's another thing we should explore.
I mean, it's so grandiose. It's so sensationalistic. It is pure Hollywood. Can it be possible? Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's precedents of married couple or tandem killers. Even if she has some sort of implied awareness of anything he might have done, or even if she knows anything, then absolutely the full weight of justice should land at her. If she doesn't, I don't know. As much as I despise the whole checkbook journalism, Peacock deal, I'm not canceling my subscription until after that show airs.
There's going to be people signing up for it just to watch it.
I need to see that. I need to understand why. I want to balance, Kerry Rawson is an incredible inspiration. If you're really into this, I hate calling it a genre, but when you look at that side of the spectrum, and who or what a victim is, you have to balance that. And I know for a fact in the very beginning, I gave a lot of that to Asa, and I pulled back because I wasn't seeing any empathy at all coming back towards the victims and the families. And even the generic statement that came out 2 months ago came through the lawyer, and
Yeah, I don't trust any of that.
yeah, everybody should have said that months ago, and they didn't. I get mad at Asa because I'm human and I'm close to these stories, these people, and I falter in that regard. But is Asa complicit? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? There's only one of her hairs on three of three of her hairs. Like, with all that hair, you'd think there would be more, perhaps, unless we go Dexter with the whole, the whole plastic and everything. I don't know. It just allows your brain to go really far out into the speculation. It would be frightening if it was, and there'd be a lot of trolls I'd probably have to say I'm sorry to or apologize to, which I'll never do anyway. But
we'll burn that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, exactly.
But sarcasm for fun. Thank you very much. What an all-star panel! Wow, super crazy. Yes, it is. And Alton Farid, thank you for joining the channel too. I appreciate that. No, I mean, guys, this is going full court here today. I think, and Laura kind of saying, like, it doesn't look like these guys are going anywhere.
Can I ask a couple questions? Did you guys hear that there were some other searches that didn't make it into the media in Riverhead?
No,
I didn't hear that.
All right.
I
was told that there might have been a Riverhead search that didn't make it into the media. That was on the DL. Riverhead, I'm not sure why Riverhead.
I was going to say, do we have any cases, Raul, that would be?
Riverhead Jane Doe. Asian, very viciously beaten.
Yeah.
Same age frame?
She's still not in NamUs. For a long time, Suffolk County even refused to acknowledge it. Murder Inc., the online blogger, had tried for years with a FOIL request and didn't get anything.
Is this the jewelry?
No, that's
not the pig jewelry.
No, that's Laddingtown. Riverhead Jane Doe still isn't in NamUs. When I applied for a FOIL request, I got an acknowledgement that it's part of an active investigation. So aside from being denial, now they're starting to say that it's part of the investigation. So I don't know. There could be a whole lot there to them being in Riverhead.
Yeah. So I heard Riverhead, and then if we could bring up something else, let's talk about Bitroff.
I'd love to talk about John.
Let's talk about Bitroff. So basically, the first question about Manorville, right? Was it Rex or was it Bitroff? And that I offered to the group. Was it Rex or was it Bitroff?
I don't think we know enough. I mean, we used to think it was Peter Hackett because he would go through there to go to the hospital.
Well, some people thought it was Peter Hackett, but other people didn't think it was Peter
Hackett. I mean, when it comes to Manorville, I mean, it's such a vast place to get rid of anything.
Yeah.
You walk through there, and aside from, deer skeletons and whatever, there's garbage and trash and things. And it's a perfect place for anybody of a nefarious mindset to dispose of anything that they want.
Agreed.
I don't know if there's Rex. Can we even remotely link them there, traffic-wise?
The only thing that I think of, and Josh and I had spoken about this, is that we know that there was a mixture of DNA found with one of the victims of John Bitroff. Am I correct on that one?
Yes, there were 3 different
male donors
profiles.
Yeah.
The whole subject was of what's the order of
right.
it.
We don't know the depositor nor the time.
And even though that's why I brought up that one time, Joe, with one of your guests, the whole sperm density, because that's what they used against Bitroff. And some people will get mad at me for this, but I still think that's junk science. Without making it about me, but I'm just going to use myself. My sample of semen may not be quantifiable to any of you three in amount and in substance, structure, quantity, whatever the adjective is. So it can't, it isn't necessarily equitable. So, but could it have been Rex and Bitroff spending time before and after unknowingly, and they're both there? Well, that's what we'll eventually find out. I think for me with Bitroff, it's a matter of that docket that keeps appearing and disappearing like Casper the fucking ghost.
That would be my question. So,
Yeah.
There's enough mystery regarding that docket that suggests that something is going on regarding Bitroff.
Yeah.
So, and then Occam's razor for Manorville would be Bitroff. So
yeah, but it's also so close to his house, relatively speaking. So is Gilgo to Massapequa Park, but it's not basically a straight line. Like Bitroff just has to go up and over, and he's right there. It's awfully close. And Occam's razor says the shortest distance between 2 points is that. So could it be? Yeah, I mean,
meaning, were they searching Manorville not for Rex, but for Bitroff to find more victims for Bitroff? Is there a reason that they were searching Manorville for Bitroff, and is there a reason that Bitroff's docket keeps coming up and off and up and off and up and off?
Well, I think it's weird based on his 440. We know the judge denied a new trial, but the other part of a 440 is release, and that didn't come down in any decision. It's no new trial. Well, maybe you don't need a new trial because, and I'm speculating on that. What I will say is, for me, all things with Bitroff and Rex hit a high point when they went after the Manorville area searches, when they went to North Sea. And then everybody, Sandra Castilla, and, for years, Suffolk County said, Bitroff is the prime suspect in the murder of Sandra Castilla. Well, is he still? Is he still? Because I don't know.
Well, they have a DNA to test it against now. So that's the other.
You guys are missing this. I'm sorry I'm smiling where you guys are talking. You guys are so intelligent and giving such good information, but I'm just cracking up because the chat is hilarious. When Raul talked about the semen, Mandy's quoting you there. It's going to be on a T-shirt. It's
going to be on a T-shirt.
You guys are being so serious. I'm just cracking up. I love being in the chat, and I can't be on the chat right now, but they're giving us so much information, and it's good. Our followers are so funny. They're talking about Occam semen now.
Oh, God.
It's just hilarious. These people, I love the followers so much. Look at them. They're so cool. I mean, and we're so. Hey, listen, and when everybody's watching, they're asking me why I'm being so quiet. And if you guys notice, and I'm talking about the viewers now, this is what interrogators do, right? I'm just quiet. I let Josh tell a story. I let Raul tell a story. I absorb it all in, and then I formulate it, and maybe I'll follow up with clarifying questions. But this is what I do. They know I'm not quiet, but I'm quiet today because I'm interested in what you guys are saying. So I don't want you to think I'm not participating. I'm just so amazed by what the theories you guys are coming up with, and then of course the hilarious comments by our viewers. So kudos to everybody.
Well, I think we're challenging all things Karen retrial right now in the chat, I guess.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, all we need is Trooper Bukkake, and we're all set.
They said that. They already said that in the chat.
Sarcasm for fun. When another super says, we know the Pine Barrens and DEC land here is a huge amount of acreage where people could almost never be found, and Riverhead Falls in that land. Scary.
It does.
Yeah, it's a huge area. Yeah, people think Long Island is small. It's far from small. For those of that have never been to Long Island, I know you hear the word island and you're thinking tiny, but it's huge. I think we've got what 4 million people living on Long Island, so it's pretty big, and there are vast areas of no development at all, just trees, and it's which kind of made it nice. And then they kind of developed it way too much, I think. But that's just me. That's just me talking.
And a preeminent breeding ground for depraved
Serial killers.
but not any more than any other like major city. You know, I think Long Island, density wise, you're looking at like Albuquerque. You know, a match. You know, and in every theoretically big city, you're talking about 4 to 5 active serial killers at once. That would be more than 2 bodies. So, you know, the fact, you know, we looked at it in this killing season, you know, Rifkin and Schulman, you know, Bitroff and you know, Heuremann, you know, it's totally not out of the question.
No, and if you look at them, they're all different in a way. They may have lived on Long Island, but you know, Rifkin's pulling from New York City, Schulman's getting from Yonkers. You know, it wasn't like everyone's all in one area shopping at the same location. Like these were spread out based on their proclivities and their needs.
And listen, we haven't even thrown in like the other famous serial killer, Richard Cottingham. You got to throw him in there into the mix here somewhere along the line too. Because his name is starting to appear again.
Yeah, he's an original, and there's I think I posted it elsewhere in the Facebook groups, but you know, a lot of Rex characteristics seem very, very reminiscent of Richard Cottingham. From, you know, Cottingham was so much more broad. Cottingham to me is one of the preeminent. I don't want to. It's not glorifying, but serial killers, because his MO would change constantly. He was exceptionally opportunistic, and you tell me a signature of Richard Cottingham, because you can do 5 other victims with all different signatures.
And that's why he lasted so long.
Well, and so the question then is he going to be brought in for some of the early victims on Long Island that we're now all looking at?
I don't know. He was in jail by 80, so it'd be really hard. I mean, 79, then Rex would be what, 18 in 79? So yeah, he'd be 18 in 75, 85. Yeah, so I don't know how. I mean, it's possible, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're starting to hear his name up. Actually, on June 4th, I'm bringing back Bill Simon, who was a retired NYPD from Cold Case, who's been speaking to Richard Cottingham. He's been doing his interviews with him. He'll be back on June 4th to give us an update on that, because he mentioned it on the first episode that we had, that he was actively talking to Cottingham. So it's going to be interesting to see if anything comes out of that.
I'm glad somebody is, because that man is willing to admit to many more if they can just work out the deal.
Well, isn't Bronsky?
Peter Bronsky, had done.
Bronsky's getting everything from him. You know,
he's still getting it. Yeah, Jennifer's gone, but Vronsky's still on it.
So, can I ask a question? Do we think that there is any DNA on any of the other victims found on Ocean Parkway?
I have one.
If you're asking me, it would. If it's an early victim, it would be a hair. If it's a victim that was discovered within a handful of days, it could be something so much more significant. But
Joe,
I'm all in on Peaches in that container, wrapped up in the blanket. You know, a hair stuck on there, on the tape, on the blanket. I'm all in on that, because we know that not only do we have the rest of her remains in Gilgo, but her daughter, right? Yeah. So, you know, that's the case I want to see solved next, only because of that baby, right? I mean, they deserve their names back. They deserve some dignity, and I'm all in for Peaches.
Well, and you guys remember that early web sleuths, like when we were looking at the case back in 2019, was it, or 16? I'm sorry. They said that the fabric, the sheet that she had been wrapped in, you could purchase that in the Rockville Center Mall.
Yeah, it was even closer to Massapequa, because it was like in a linens and things, and there was one in Rockville Center, but there was also linens and things in the Sunrise Mall in Massapequa. Could have walked there from his house. That he would have, but You know, it's all right there. So the accessibility, he's so much. If ever there is an Occam's razor, then it's Rex to all of this.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, that's the one I'm hoping for. But I mean, there's other things, right? Remember, the Asian male comes up a lot, and especially in Rex's
Internet
Google
searches.
searches.
Yeah.
Well, we know it was in women's clothing. What is it that we don't know?
Well,
And why won't they show that clothing, and what's there?
That's a good question. Why will they not show that clothing? We always tried to get pictures of that clothing early when we interviewed Cini, we interviewed Cini about everything. We're like, he's like, there's nothing on the tape. There's nothing on the tape. We're like, well, why won't you release the tape? And then he kept deflecting and saying, we may have lost the tape. Oh, you lost the 911 tape. You got to be kidding me. There was so much deflection with regards to that 911 tape. I don't, why not release Asian male? We do know, by the way, that do we know, because there was allegation, the lawyer might have said he was shot, but that's not true, correct?
That who was shot?
Asian male.
The Asian male.
I heard that, but there's nothing to substantiate that. Namus, everything that came out, even from Dormer, was that it was blunt force trauma.
Yeah, that's what I had heard. But then when, that shooting came out, that was, is that a gun related? Is that Rex related? The guns, blah, blah, blah. And so.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something that they're holding back, it's possible. But I think, with all those guns, and then you look at all the shootings and Sugar Bear, and there's another case on Ocean Parkway earlier, like 2 decades before. It's entirely possible. 300 guns.
Is there a chance that when they did the first warrant, they put in electronic listening device in the house?
Are you able to do? I mean, I don't know. Can you do that? You need a warrant.
I mean, the feds are involved. Yeah, the feds are involved. Yeah. I mean, to get an eavesdropping warrant, it would be interesting to see if something like that came out. I'm sure, just something that comes to my head, right? I mean, how does this all come about? I'm still struggling with that, right? There are so many different angles, and there isn't one thing I don't think that any of us could put a finger on and saying this is the reason why it's there, right? I mean, we've already mentioned at least 4 or 5 different things that could have, instigated why this search warrant goes through today.
And I think this is all good stuff, because us not knowing means no loose lips happening, which means a secure prosecution and, God willing, a secure, unchallengeable conviction.
Well, I could give you a whole bunch of rumors that I heard.
Well, throw one out there. We're all for it. I mean, as long as everyone knows that this is a rumor and a speculation, that it's not news.
Bitroff's going to get tied to another victim,
or get released.
Yeah, or be released, right? But no, I mean, I don't see that as something out of the ordinary, for sure. I mean, listen, we know that DNA technology has come so far, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I mean, listen, I think Bitroff might have put himself in the crosshairs by trying to get out, right? Now, all of a sudden, now it's just like, not only are you not getting out, but we're going to pile it on now.
That's my question. With the Manaville search, they're trying to tie Bitroff to another victim. Now, we could also, by the way, have something related to like the LA South Side Slayer, right? In which case we had a numerous different serial murders, but basically in an effort to clean the cases, to clean the board, they're going to just start to basically put victims onto Bitroff just because it's easy, I hope that's not going to be the case here.
Well, they kind of did it with Bitroff's arrest anyway. Bianca Villa, like you mentioned.
Exactly.
He's looked at for everything else, and then he just left it there. And hopefully every administration post Burke and Spoda would do the same basic intentional / unintentional / intentional cover up and not do anything to defend this or to find out the answers. So
Yeah.
Well, didn't the DA himself say that he's responsible for more? Was it Balaclava? I forgot his name.
Yeah,
yeah, but he wasn't. It was the assistant.
he was the ADA.
Yeah, he was the ADA.
But we all hit on that. Like, why are you even saying that? How could you responsibly say that? But let me ask you a different question. What if he was responsibly saying that? I.e., what if there was information that basically said this and he's unable to prove it then, but is able to prove it now, i.e., DNA?
And give him another 225 years. I mean, if he's guilty of murder, then rot and die in jail. Who cares?
Sure.
But if he's let's say not guilty of Sandra Castilla, then let's find out who is. And if it's Rex, put him in jail. But also, if we find out that he's not responsible for Rita Tangretti and Colleen McNamee, then why is he sitting in jail? And I'm not pro Bitroff. I'm not anti Bitroff. He's in jail. He was convicted. Let the legal things happen. I don't know the nuances of the appeal or the 440. Mm-hmm. So, I'll let people more qualified, make those decisions. But, for Rex, go after everything. If you got a case with DNA, then on Long Island, New York City, Rex needs to be run through the system. Maybe that's for the searches, because if they're searching actively, let's just say Sandra Castillo, let's just say Carmen Vargas, then that case becomes close to the LISK case, and then they have the purview to use and reference his DNA. They can't just go out and use his DNA and canvass it like everything else. So who knows?
I wonder if there is evidence that they had to suggest that Bitroff was responsible for some of those other victims and didn't have the means back then and now have the means.
Yeah. I mean, you said it right off the bat. What wasn't relevant then is relevant now.
Yeah.
Well, and that's true. But listen, we know that they can be having two concurrent investigations going on, right? Because they're tearing apart Rex's house now, right? Which has nothing to do with Bitroff. So it's just it's interesting to see if this thing takes on legs with different cases with different people.
Yeah. Clearing the books.
Just want justice.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's all we want. We want to see somebody, be charged with these cases and close them out. We want to see the names put on these victims.
The names.
Yep, we want the names. We want their families to be brought into the fold.
And again, the thing that always was so crazy to me, how is there not a birth records of a mother and child, a child being born? You assume it's the baby was born in a hospital, now, sure, it may not be this country, what have you, but that would have, I assume, to have been the most actionable lead out of everything.
Could be. It's hard to tell too. I mean, when I put on my map some of the infants and fetuses, like certainly they fetuses are stillborn, but there are a few of the infants that I put on the map that were intentionally unalived. I hate such a weird statement, but that were murdered. And like we saw the arrest a couple of months ago of a 50-year-old case where the woman an infant was found and they arrested her. For me, it was sort of a ethical question. Are we going to arrest and put in jail 13-year-old girls who gave birth in a bathroom somewhere because they were product of incest or rape?
Yeah.
And are we blaming these victims? But in that case, she murdered and snuffed the life out of her child. So yeah, you got to have some accountability for that, regardless of it 50 years ago or however old you were. She was 17 at the time. So
yeah. Yep. And like Kerry said, Rex Googled Bitroff, right? That was one of his Google searches. He was interested in Bitroff in so many different angles.
Maybe because Bitroff took the rap.
Yep. Something like that.
Well, like that's why we were talking about before about the mixed DNA, right? We just don't know what the order is. Does that mixed DNA come into play? I mean, when I first heard the news, I think Josh, you and I were talking about this. That was the first thing we kind of like leaned to is does that DNA come back to Rex in any way as another
That would be
donor?
That would be movie-esque.
Well, I mean, look at it. They convicted him based on the evidence, according to sperm density, that Bittroff
Here we go.
was the last one there. Well, it's the facts.
I know.
Or it's the words. I don't know if they're facts yet, but that he was the last donor.
Yeah.
But if you have 3 guys and the other one happens to be Rex, then that kind of really, you have to look at it a whole lot differently. And if I was Bittroff's appeal lawyers, I'd be going batshit crazy right now, wanting to revisit everything 440.
Yep.
No, absolutely. So we are at the hour mark. 760 people watching this live. That's a new record for this show. So that's amazing. So thank you everybody for joining us so far. We have Raul from Catch LISK and also from Catch Justice, his YouTube show. And we have Josh Zeman, director, writer, producer of The Killing Season. We had Mike. We lost him. I sent him a text trying to get him back into the room, but I think he's having some difficulties. So that happens sometimes.
I see some of these hashtags in there. Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, we know Mike was watching those hashtags. I'm going to go back and read them later on just because.
I should be embarrassed, but I don't laugh all that often, and this is making me laugh.
Well, that's good. Laughing's always good. So, Raul, how many cases? Raul, you have mapped all these cases out on Long Island. You mapped them out in several states, but Long Island specifically. Do you have a guesstimate how many could be involved in the same kind of MO or some kind of age group? Kind of thing. Do you have a number that you could give us?
That specific to like an age group or physical characteristic, it's not as vast. If you look at how many active serial killers in a particular geographic area, you start to get in a whirlpool of everything. For me, I do 2 things. I think of LISK, I think 100 plus. If I start to really splice down, then of course it's going to get less and less because you're going to be more and more specific. But then again, you look at the bail document and I go back up to 100 because there's the Manorville males, there's the Hampton males, there's males in New York City. Maureen's phone pinged on 59th Street, right around the corner from me, 58th Street, and the 59th Street Bridge. And there's 2 male-centered clubs down the block. The Townhouse, which is renowned in that community, and then further down there's a club that caters to Asian preferences, not necessarily Asian clients, but if you prefer Asian twink, that's where you're going to go to solicit, and that's been there for decades. So is the Townhouse. So, and it's all familiar area to Rex. So you have to, just looking at that bail document, the Asian twink alone set me reeling. And that's why you see so many more rainbows on my map, because I did focus a lot on the gay community and all of that. And then when you look at gay community, just in the let's just say the 10 years between Valerie, or even if you go to Karen Vergata to Shannon Gilbert, there's dozens of gay male victims out there.
Yeah, we were always thinking that there was another serial killer basically going after trans, like basically separating out, Sugar Bear and Tanya Rush and everybody that they're, and this is the work that Murder Inc. did, that there was basically somebody else targeting trans sex workers in the Bronx in the late 90s. Early 2000s.
Yeah, I think for me though, when you see the bail document, Asian twink, some of his other preferences, there were black girls, there were white cheerleaders, so many of these victims, and yes, it's broad and it's general. So many possible victims fit that same profile. including the gay community. But then you layer in the building permits, and it's like it's like a 1, 2, 3 punch. Like, how many more punches can we add in? The more we learn about, what I want to find out is the building permits. And I'd love anybody that's smarter than me or can get contacts, but I'd like to know those building permits when Rex worked for Rothenberg, because then that would put him out in places like Staten Island. That would put him wherever Rothenberg had building permit work when Rex worked for him in the late 80s, then through the 90s and early 2000s, then we can layer in so many more, or validate possibly so many more potential victims.
That's amazing that you can go up to 100 though.
100 plus. Yep.
And think about it, like, and would you be able, like, if you had the time, would you be able to factor in like how many of those were found between 2011 and 2023 until that arrest? Yeah,
I mean, I have there's the one database that I have. It's the attributed and possible victims with Rex's timeline there. And then there's another tab on that document that has extended possibles, like your, not necessarily Carmen Vargas, but going all the way back earlier to Janice Fulham out in Suffolk County, the Erica McDaniels of Brooklyn, even the upstate possibles like Amanda King, who could very well be a LISK victim. There's so many, and without falling into that rabbit hole of, and I see it everywhere, everybody's a LISK victim. Well, we don't know that, so you got to look at it. But 10 years ago, where people like me were investigating some of these possibles, we were still being laughed at. But now here we are, and it's a little bit more serious. So, when we're first looking at, and even Murder Inc. caught a lot of shit for that too, a ton of shit. And I used to really be public in my defense of him, where, he would put these out there and people would go, he's just blaming every murder victim on the Long Island serial killer. Well, as we learn more and more about Rex, we may find some validation, and a whole lot of people are going to have to send an email to Murder Inc. and go, hey, dude, you were right.
He was right on Karen Vagata. He had a name on Karen Vagata before anybody even heard of it.
Yeah. And how he did that was very smart.
Forrest Nelson, thank you for gifting those memberships. I really appreciate that. And we also saw Bold and Snarky. I'm trying to find out where there it is, Bold and Snarky, for gifting that membership too. Thank you very much. That's my spirit animal, Bold and Snarky. But yeah, no, listen, Murder Inc. was right. And that's just something to think about in so many aspects. And that's why, to me, it's amazing that this case, I mean, if you're even half right, Raul, at 50 and not 100 victims, I mean, my God. I mean, the list just goes on and on. So there's lots of them to be fishing over here and seeing that,
Yeah, I think it's prolific.
We will see. Oh, and then the other question is South Carolina.
South Carolina is more than likely LISK. I think entirely possible. Julianne Bean needs to be looked at.
And then my question is, does South Carolina have death penalty?
I don't know.
I don't know why I don't remember that.
So because if South Carolina does have the death penalty, then could you see a guilty plea in Long Island?
South Carolina has electrocution, lethal injection, and firing squads. So yes.
Oh, good. The trifecta.
Vegas and South Carolina.
Well, like I said, I've been saying all along, right? If you find another case in another state, it's all federal, and this is all bye. See you later. And the only thing that keeps
is a guilty plea.
Yeah, the only thing that keeps them out of that firing squad would be
Tierney would love a guilty plea because then he doesn't have to explain away the other 6 murders.
Well, listen, that's the ultimate goal of every prosecutor, right? Sure. Get him to take a plea and
what do you give? What do you give to get it?
Well, the only thing you could give, like I said, if the feds say, "All right, we're taking over now," it's a death penalty case. Because even in New York, you get the death penalty. New York has an active death penalty, but it's just only the feds could do it.
Yeah. But then it hasn't been instituted in years, correct?
Right. Yeah, it was signed into law again by Pataki in like 94, 95. Right. And there's only like 18 ways you could do it, but there's never going to be a prosecutor that's going to do it because it's been declared unconstitutional. However, the feds can still do it, which is kind of, we need a constitutional lawyer to explain that to us. We'll have to find one.
Somebody brought up this question. We all thought Peaches was going to get identified.
Oh my God, yes.
I was sure of it, but it didn't happen. And I still, and I do go back to that tattoo artist who was talking about Georgia and the peach and the initials. Again, folks, there are initials in that tattoo. I can't figure it out, but if somebody can, initials in that tattoo, 3 letters.
So we have 746 people in this room. You've just been challenged by Josh. Go and find the peaches. And
I think I see TBH when I look at it.
It was not. It's there 3 initials in the friggin' tattoo. Can we not find out who she is from those 3 initials? 700 people? It's got to be. I know there are 700 people who are smarter than me.
Interesting. Well, you guys, we're gonna give you guys each the last word because we are on overtime now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Raul, what do you think is the outcome of this event that we're seeing at Massapequa Park?
I don't think we're gonna know. I don't think we're gonna find out. I think he already said it already. We don't discuss our investigative process and on anything open, and that's fine. I can live with that for now. If it has anything to do with the recent searches, that'd be really interesting. But again, we probably won't find that out. If more charges come against him for whatever they found in that house, then, slam him with every charge with 2 gavels in the side of his head. Like, I want to see him never come out of jail again. But I just want justice. I want justice for every single victim and everybody that is needing an answer.
Josh,
I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of rumors about Bitroff being charged for some of the victims that we're talking about, and I fear that in an effort to make this case rock solid, we're going to start attributing victims to other serial killers. And the question is there the evidence to do so, or are we just clearing the books like we've heard about in many other cases throughout the years? And so I fear that, we always feared that with Rodney Harrison gone, that there was a little bit of checks and balances gone. I think Tierney's great, but the pressure to get a conviction may unfortunately, some the truth may get unfortunately swept under the rug. I don't know. So I want to know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, well, we'd hate to see that for sure, right? I mean, just want to make sure, we get the right guy for the right cases.
And then the other thing is, great, we get a conviction on Heuremann for the 4 victims, and I'm so happy that those families get closure. Again, we use that word, with a lot of salt because there is no such thing as closure. But what about the others? I hope that doesn't stop us from finding out Peaches, Baby Doe, Asian male, who killed Karen, who killed Jessica Taylor, who killed all these other individuals.
I agree. Well,
those families need closure. Those families need answers, not closure, answers.
Yep. Well, they're asking for the initials again. Josh says he believes they are TBH. So someone had asked in the comments, T as in Thomas, B as in boy, H as in Henry.
Yeah, so, I can send you a picture of the. We did some forensic work in terms of trying to bring it up, but it's hard to see. But please,
if you can send me a copy, email it to me. I'll post it on the community page for everybody.
I will.
That'd be great. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. This was phenomenal. Had a lot of fun there. We had a couple of special guests too, in Pretty amazing. Pretty great show. I mean, this is a new record for the show. 745 people still watching.
Thanks, Joe, for getting us all together and continue. You know, you're the one who's really been excellent in terms of keeping this alive. So thank you.
I appreciate that. And you guys are welcome back, as you know, anytime you want. So if something pops up the next couple of days and you want a platform, we're going to do it. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Everyone, thanks for watching today.
Thanks for watching,
and we will see you soon. You guys hang out 1 second. All right. Good night, everybody.